Alright, so this is the new Flutter puzzle hack video. I'll be going through it in a second.
Hello and welcome to another session of Flutter Puzzle Hack Home Q&A
Question
from Flutter community. My name is Simon Lightfoot, together with Scott. Hi, Scott. You look a little bit different.
I do look a little bit different. You look a little bit different too, Simon.
Yeah, I do. I know. So everyone is changing, right?
Yeah.
You're changing too. No, just a joke. So together with the staff, my name is Majid, and we're from Flutter community. We're trying to cover Scott and Simon. They both couldn't make it for this session, so I hope that we can cover them very well. I think, Steph, we should start the program. I think a lot of people are waiting for our amazing guest, and they are actually waiting for the question get answered, right? Let's go through our slides first. So, Steph, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So we have some do's and don'ts within the Flutter community. You need to be nice and respectful. This is within your comments and Twitter too. During the YouTube live chat, social media, all of that, don't post anything that is adult content, rude, or offensive. Don't advertise or promote anything. If you do, you're going to get kicked out. Don't spam. If you post questions, don't keep doing it because we just won't answer your question. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated within the Flutter community at all. The thing is, we all talk, we all know each other. So if you do something here, you're going to get kicked out of other communities as well. And that includes the world. So just be nice. That's basically what we're asking you to do. And if you can't do that, go away.
Fantastic. So let's introduce today's host and guest. As I said, my name is Majid, community leader on Flutter.gd, together with the staff, Flutter Resource co-leader and Flutter Tech editor. We have Kelvin, product marketing manager. We have Frank Hoff, Firebase engineer, and Randall, as always. So let me actually bring up our faces, maybe remove this, and introduce Kelvin to the stage. Hello, Kelvin. How's it going?
Thanks for having me on today. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really looking forward to the night. I'm talking about how to have Firebase to the project. That's all some cool functionality. So yeah, I'm really excited to check out that quick. No one puzzle hack. Just those who might not be aware of what puzzle hack is. It's a chance for anyone to build something really fun, unique from a really basic utilitarian casual game. So to see just how far you can go, whether you're implementing multiplayer mode, some sort of crazy hacker mode, which is some really cool submissions so far, over 5,000 participants from over 150 countries. That's kind of wild. Just to see kind of the participation rate and how involved folks are. We're planning to announce our finalists and judges early next week. So make sure you get questions today and make sure to get started on the submissions February 28th and that's 12 days away. It's the final day to submit.
It's not too late, right? You can still start. I will admit, my day job has been really consuming me. I signed up, haven't started, so I still have to do it. And I gotta go back watch the YouTube videos that are here on the community as well as see what I come up with. So if you're watching and you haven't started, you're not alone.
Exactly. So head over to flutter.post.com. Check out the resources tab, check out the content schedule if you want to check out some of the formal live streams, check out animations with Ride, or just basics of how to build a puzzle that VG helped us out a few weeks ago. Anything like that. And you can feel free to get started whenever. It's not too late at all. Make sure you join the Flutter community Slack channel. Get any questions you have answered there, or go on the discussion forum that goes on the stage where we'll actually affiliate to. But anyway, today's topic, really talking about how to add Firebase to your project. I'm really excited to introduce Frank Van Hoffelen, who is a Firebase developer here on the Firebase team. So welcome to Frank.
All right, let's have off. You are muted.
Oh, you're muted. Oh no.
You're muted.
Everyone, good weather part today, but for most of the same Wednesday, so
Very nice. So I guess now we can leave the stage to Puff and you tell us what you have for us. Good luck.
That sounds great, folks. That sounds great. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
If all goes well, then we'll also see some slides. Yes, it's magic. It was magic. I love this. Okay, so good to be here today. Thank you all for joining. Like Steph, I haven't done too much in Flutter myself, but I've heard and talked about all the cool submissions. It's been amazing what everyone has built. And I'm here today to, do a bit of like your marketing, hence the title for your game to have success. Also, we're going to do a bit of mixing. We're going to look at some of the things that Frank can help you answer your successful. We're going to look at some use cases you can implement to make it a more fun,
He's got to slow down.
user experience. It's weird. I'm still so used to being in front of a live audience where I can ask for a thumbs up, and I can do that here, but I'm probably not going to see them. But if you have any questions, post them in the comments, and I think they will post them to me later. Please, only easy questions today if you can help. Okay, let's see. So I'm Frank, or Buff, I respond to both equally, so you'll hear both. And I'm an engineer on Firebase at Google. And all of you have been working on the puzzle hack so far, right? So if all went well, then you've built this amazing app, right? You've taken the basic puzzle game, you've added all kinds of fun features to it. And I'm not sure how it is for you, but when I do something like that, I get so proud. And I show it to my wife, I show it to my friends, and then I want to upload it to the app and Play Store, right? And I'm like, this is going to be so great. Everyone's going to love it. And yeah, some people do, but some people don't, right? And what turns out is that people really care about a great experience with your app. They don't just care about the feature when it works. They care that it should work always, right? So if your app is buggy or unstable, you're going to get negative reviews. That's not great, right? And this is not just your and my experience. This actually happens for all of us. I'm really sorry, some weird alarms going off. This happens for all of us. We have data to back this up. So over 60% of the people who uninstall apps do that after a bad experience, like a crash or some freezes. And keep in mind, these people don't just stop using your app themselves. They either tell their friends and family, or they write a negative App Store review, and that hurts, right? Your adoption. So how can you stop that from happening? Well, it's easy, right? You've got to catch all bugs before you ship the app. It's like, good, we're done, right? We can hang up and start hacking again. It's not always easy, right? Like for one, we just overlook things, right? We have our own way of clicking in the app, and other users click in a different order, and that might cause problems. Or you might have issues that don't appear on your test device, even if you have two test devices, right? Your users and your devices are going to be different. So some issues are only going to appear when you give the app to your real users. So how can you then fix it? Well, the thing is that you want to catch these problems early on, right? When the first user hits an issue, you want to get notified about that. And how can you do that? Well, that's where Firebase comes in. We have a product called Crashlytics, and it helps you identify and diagnose crashes in Android and iOS apps with detailed logs to help you figure out what is broken. Crashlytics is installed on, it says here, over 3 billion devices. By now, it's actually well over 5 billion devices. Honestly, any capable mobile phone runs Crashlytics. And every time a crash occurs in one of those apps, it gets sent to our servers. And we use that to generate unique insights into how the crashes may be affecting your users and what the most important crashes are that are happening. You add Crashlytics to your app by installing an SDK. And once you do that, in Crashes Start Appearing, you get access to Crashlytics information in the Firebase console. And this is that information. So this is your users and your iOS apps with Crashlytics, and it helps you identify and diagnose crashes in Android and iOS apps with detailed logs to help you figure out what is broken. Crashlytics is installed on, it says here, over 3 billion devices. By now, it's actually well over 5 billion devices. Honestly, any capable mobile phone runs Crashlytics. And every time a crash occurs in one of those apps, it gets sent to our servers. And we use that to generate, we group them by similarity, and then we order it so that you can know what's affecting most of your users. And then for each of these crashes, we show you what we can find out about it. For example, this first crash only happens on iOS 11. That might be important to you. We also have general insights about what might be causing this crash, and we show that too. So by using this dashboard, you can quickly see which crashes your users are seeing and which ones are most important for you to fix. And when you click on one of the crashes, we give you a detailed view of that crash. At the bottom of this screen, you see a stack trace, so you can see on which line the problem is happening. And at the top, you can see which versions are affected by this, right? So you can see whether you introduced it in a specific version. We also show you things about, if you're using our free analytics product, we show sort of like a breadcrumb of the things to use was doing leading up to the crash, which might make it easier for you to reproduce it. So you get detailed information that allows you to fix crashes quickly and push out the update to your users. So you get rid of those negative reviews. Okay, I said Firebase once, let's fix that and say it more. So Firebase is not just Crashlytics. We have 18 or so products that help you solve key problems during the app lifecycle. And Crashlytics is one of them, but yeah, crashes are not the only thing that might be a quality problem, right? Sluggish apps are also a problem. And sure, Flutter helps us build great, smooth apps, but there's so many things we can run. So we can use performance monitor. We also have TestLab, which honestly, if you have 2 devices, TestLab has 200 of them. You can run automated tests on those before you ship the app to your users. We have app distribution. If you have enough users, you probably have a select group of more trusted users that you want to send pre-releases of your app to. You see, this is one very narrow vertical pillar because we have more features. For example, we have a set of features that help you build better apps. We'll get to those in a moment because we're going to look at some fun use cases. Quickly, want to look at some of the features that we have that help you drive user engagement. So these are the features that you typically don't think of straight away when you start building your app. But once you have the app in your hand, it has to your users. How can I keep them coming back to my app? One of the first things you want to look at there is a product called messaging. Because imagine that you add a multi-user feature to your app to say message board. And this is not really imaginary, we're going to do that in a bit. Right? Then when somebody mentions another user on the message board, yeah, you probably want the other user to get notified of that. But what are the chances of them at that moment playing the game? Right? They're not very big. So what you want to do there is send a push notification that shows up on their device even when they're not using the app. Then when they click on that, they get re-engaged into your app. So this is called re-engagement. And it's one of the features in Firebase. So you can send a message from your server to all kinds of clients, right? To all the users of your app. This is a free and unlimited product of Firebase. We send billions and billions of messages every day. It's called cloud messaging, Firebase Cloud Messaging, or FCM normally. It's a free service to send messages from servers to all the connected apps. As I said, we send billions and billions of messages every day. So this is another concern. What you can do is, in your application, send a message to all of your users. Now, just like Flutter, Firebase is cross-platform. And that means that you can send messages to iOS, Android, and web users. In fact, with a single call, you can send a message to all these different devices. So you don't have to worry about what type of device users. But of course, if you want to give a very specific experience to iOS users, you can customize the message for them. Okay, one feature. We've now covered 2 products. Let's have a look at another few things in that user engagement. For example, I'm not going to show you much about it, but Firebase has integrated with Google Analytics. That means that you get free unlimited analytics. So for all of your users, you can just send events and start seeing how users are using your app. You look in the dashboard and see what's retention rate, right? Retention graph look like. If people stop using the application, what screen were they in? Right? Was there a specific puzzle that didn't work for them? These types of things are really key about using analytics. Another thing I'm going to look at today is a feature called remote config, which allows you to change the app behavior without releasing a new version. Changing app behavior is one thing you want to do, right? For example, let's say you want to change the background color. Yeah, it's a little sweet, right? Let's say that text behavior is not called store, but maybe there's some other text that would work better, right? And I think people are actually having a hard time, so you might want to make the game a bit simple. All of these are changes that require us to make a new build for the application and then send it to the App Store in Play Store, wait for the review, and wait for the users to download it. And this takes a lot of time if you have to do this for every small change. But that's where Firebase Remote Config comes in. Firebase Remote Config is really just a key value store that lives in the cloud that your application can pull values from and then use that to tweak the application. We can do that without needing to publish a new version of the app to the App Play Store. And here's how it works. So here we have some default values that we ship in the binary of the application as we build it. So we have 3 properties: button text, packet state, and C level. They're currently important to our game here. Now, we ship default values for these in the application, but then we can modify them through the Firebase console or through an API. And when we modify them, the app will get the new versions when it starts. So every time the app starts, it checks with the server what values do we have for these. And if any value is different, it overrides the local value with the value from the server. So now we can tweak the behavior of the app based on something we do after it's been released. So remote config merges the values that you hard-coded with the values that come from the cloud, and then it shows the user, or it gives your app the resulting values. Even better, remote config lets you deliver different values to different users. This is key to building an exciting app experience. For example, let's say that you want to give your Canadian users a different treatment because you want to celebrate Canada Day with them. So I'm not sure if you can see it here, but on the shield that Sparky holds, there's a maple leaf. Like, wouldn't that be fun to do? But honestly, only your Canadian users are going to be like excited about that, right? It's a little Easter egg that really works for them. With Firebase, you can say, okay, I want only my Canadian users to show this image. Right? All the other users see the default experience, but the Canadian users see the maple leaf. This is also, you can do this for any country, you can do this for all kinds of values. This you can give a special treatment to groups of users. And talking about groups of users, how often when you add a new feature to your app, are you 100% certain that's going to work for everyone? Right? That's scary if you have an app with thousands or millions of users. So what you can do with remote config is add feature flags. So you build the entire feature, but you put it behind a feature flag, which is just the values for remote config. And then you tell remote config, I want to roll out this feature to only a small percentage of people. So use them for testing. You check if everything works. And if they like the feature, and only once they do, you tell remote config, okay, now show it to everyone. Remember, this doesn't require any new versions to be published. Right? We're not doing new releases. We can just control this from the Firebase console. So if it turns out that the feature does not work, only for the test users, you can remove it for everyone without a new release. Then we'll look at the code, right? What mistakes did you make? More features. We can also use analytics events to tweak the behavior that the user sees. So for example, you can see, right, if you have an in-app purchase for your app, you can use that to tweak the behavior for those users. And this allows you to deliver a customized experience based on the user preferences and their behavior, all from the Firebase console. If you've done development, you might have heard of A/B testing, right? It's where you give two variants that you're not sure which one will perform better. You show both of them to a different group of users, and then you test, right, which one works better. You typically have a control group that gets the default experience. Firebase has A/B testing built in too. So you tell us the values for the remote config parameters, and we'll run tests on them. And relatively new, we now even have on-device personalization. That means that you tell us about parameters, you tell us, I don't know what the right values are. Can you help me optimize this? And remote config will run machine learning experiments on the user's device to make sure they get the best experience for their behavior and preferences. Just one more product that we covered. But these are some user engagement products. Remember, cloud messaging allows you to pull the user back in to the app when something interesting happens while they're not using the application. And remote config allows you to tweak the app behavior without publishing a new version. At least one more pillar that we haven't covered yet, right? Which is how to build better apps. And honestly, this is where a lot of people start using Firebase. It's where I got started. I'm not sure if you noticed something today about when I talk about integrating Firebase, but usually when I used to start building an app, I started with an architecture like this. This is a traditional three-tier architecture. On the one side, we have the device where we have our Flutter app running, and on the far other side, we have a database or other backend services that we want to use. And in the middle, we put a server. Right? On the server, we create these custom endpoints, and we write code that takes the request from the device and then queries the database and gives the result back. Right? And that code handles all kinds of business logic, and it handles all kinds of security that we want, authorization, handles all that. With Firebase, things are different because we take away the server. Because honestly, our users don't really care that much about server code that we write. They don't really care about the beautiful databases that we have. They care about the features that you add to your app, right? So with Firebase, we deliver client-side SDKs that you can use directly in your application. So if you use Firebase in your Flutter app, all you're going to be writing is Dart code. And so far, it might have made sense, right? Sure, crashes we can handle generically, right? Push notifications, sure, yeah, system-level functionality, I get that. But for Firebase, we do the same for what you probably consider more core services of your app. So Firebase comes with two cloud-hosted databases that you can access directly from within your Flutter application. We'll see how to do that in a moment. But we also have pure client-side sign-in. If you've ever spun up an OAuth server, as I have, I'm so happy that I never have to do that again. Right? And that is great, because once the users sign in, we can protect data access for those users. Okay. There's file storage, and there's other features that are key for you when you're building your application. So you can focus on the features that your users are going to love, instead of worrying about spinning up servers or thinking about how to make things scalable and secure them. We'll take care of that, and you can focus on the features. Okay, let's have a look at the databases for a moment, because we're going to build some features together.
$240.
Okay, let's have a look at the databases for a moment, because we're going to build some features together. And remember, all of the Firebase products come with a Flutter SDK, so that you can access them directly from within your Dart code without having to spin up servers. This should look familiar for now. This is a puzzle game. I think that for some of you, it will look more interesting than it does here right now. Okay, let's see. Let's make this multi-user. So we now have 4 users looking at the puzzle game. What can we do here, right? What would be a cool multi-user feature? Showing everyone how somebody's playing the puzzle is probably not the best multi-user feature. It's actually going to be quite complex to do, and honestly, Twitch probably does it better. So that's not a great feature. But a fun first feature to add would be to add a leaderboard, right? Where we can see the top scores for some of our users. So let's see how we're going to do that. And actually, let's first look at the result. So we have an animation here. It already started playing, where we have the top players. This is a looping animation, so we'll give it a few moments to loop. Okay, so we click on the leaderboard. We see that there's no top players yet. And then Gianna has their first score. And then Beth comes in and has a better score. Now Duncan has a score. And then Eve comes in. And Eve actually just bested her own best score. Now, honestly, these are a bit fast. I replayed everything a bit faster. But this would be an interesting feature to add, right? Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing we need is that we need a place to store those scores. And since it's multi-user, we need to make sure that it's a database that all of us can see. So we're going to use a cloud-hosted database for that. Firebase has 2 cloud-hosted databases, Cloud Firestore and the Firebase Routing database. They're both NoSQL databases. Honestly, for the purposes of what we're doing here today, they're both totally fine. I happen to use the Firebase Routing database, but if you pick Cloud Firestore, it will work almost the same. The Firebase Routing database is a cloud-hosted NoSQL database. We're really just storing a JSON tree in the cloud. So we have a set of key values. And you see at the top here that we have a leaderboard. And then under that, we have 3 keys. And you might recognize them because these are player names. And then for each key, we have a value. The value is the minimum number of moves that the player has. A minimum number, by the way, because this is one game where having a lower score is better, right? You can see that we use the player name as the key. That immediately means that each player can have only 1 score in this scenario, which is good because we only want to see their best score. We don't want to show all scores. We just want to show the best score for each player. And once we store this in the database, we can read this leaderboard data into the app and display it to the user. And that's what we just saw, right? Okay, let's switch over to the Firebase console and see what it looks like here. So here you see that we have the Firebase console with the real-time database selected. On the right, you see that we have a node called leaderboard, just like in the slide before. And here you can see that the players are posting their scores.
And you can see that they're modifying their scores. So every time a new player posts their score, you see a green note pop up. And every time they're improving their scores, so having a lower number of moves, you can see that it shows up in yellow. So Abe just scored for the first time, Jules scored, Gianna. I think one of them was besting their own score, right? Yes, Jules improved that score now. Okay. Let's see how we write this data from Firebase. Now I have a link at the end to a talk where I show you exactly how to wire Firebase up. But for here, I'm just gonna look at the code that writes the score to the database. These are the 4 lines that we need. It's a single statement, actually. The first line is Firebase database.instance, and that creates a connection to the Firebase database. In another part of the code, we've initialized Firebase with configuration values that allow our code to find the project on the server. So here, what we do is we find that same database on the server. Then we create what's called a reference to the leaderboard node. Remember, that's where we are storing the score data. Then a child for our username. In this case, I've hard-coded that to be Gianna, but right, you're going to probably use the player name that was entered there. And then we set that value to whatever score we want. You can see that that's a number because we want to store these as numeric values. So just these 4 lines of code write to the Firebase database. And check all the things we did not have to do here, right? We are not checking whether we have an internet connection. We are not checking whether like the database is available. All of that is handled for us automatically by the SDK and by the Firebase backend services. But when we run this code, it's writing the values to the database already. And if you look at what we're seeing here, this sort of looks like the leaderboard we were showing the app, right? In fact, do you notice that this is constantly updating? So the Firebase console immediately shows any data that comes in. That might be different from what you're used to from other databases, right? Where you need to run a query to get the current scores. In fact, if you think of the leaderboard screen that we had a bit earlier, then you're probably used to, right, when somebody clicks on the leaderboard tab, you're going to run a SQL statement to get the values from the cloud, right? And yeah, that's it, right? You're showing the current top values. And then maybe when somebody like clicks on the leaderboard tab again, you do this again, right? Or if you're really fancy, you're going to do this every few seconds, right? With Firebase, things are different. Firebase has a reactive model for the database. That's why it's called a real-time database. Because this is the database reading model for Firebase. So these are 5 devices that are all connected to the same data. Let's say our leaderboard. And every time you see a yellow line, that's one of the devices writing data. And then the blue lines are all the other devices being notified of that updated data. This happens automatically whenever you connect to the database to read data from it. So whenever you first say, I'm interested in the leaderboard data, the database server keeps an open connection to each client. Whenever there's an update to the data, it sends that data to the client almost instantly. Within milliseconds, the scores will be sent out to all other players. That's awesome, right? Let's see how complex this is to wire up in the code. Okay, it's a bit more code than what we saw before, but it's actually not too bad. Because the first line is just, it's a build, right? As we see in all our widgets. So that's fine. Actually, the first interesting bit is happening here. We're using a custom widget called Firebase Animated List. And it's included with the Firebase library. And it somewhat combines a list view with a stream builder and knowledge of Firebase. That's important. So where you normally have a stream in a stream builder, in Firebase Animated List, you have a query. And the query tells Firebase what data you want to read. You can see that we again have Firebase database instance ref leaderboard. That's the same as we have when we were writing. So here we are still accessing the same leaderboard in the cloud. But now we're saying we want to order by the value and get the first 5 results from that. And it's the first 5 because remember the lowest number of moves is the best score here. Okay. What the Firebase Animated List does, it opens a stream on this. So it internally just is a stream builder again, right? And on that stream, immediately when we run this code, we get an event for the current first 5 values. If there's fewer than 5, we'll get the fewer, of course. And then whenever there's a change, we get a new event with, again, the updated top 5 values. So it opens a stream from the database to the application and immediately updates us whenever there's a new value. Okay. Now, Animated List then has an item builder in there. That gives us the usual things we want, including an animation that we use for showing animation here, but also gives us a snapshot of a single player score because we're rendering a single item here. So that's in the snapshot parameter here. Then we render that into a list file. So we take the key, which is the player name, and the value, which is the player score, and we render that into a list file. That's how we get this. Sure, the code might be a bit unfamiliar, but not too bad, right? It's actually not that much code for creating a leaderboard. Ooh, that's fun. But one thing that you should be wondering about is how do I keep malicious players from writing a score that they didn't really have? Or even worse, how do I keep players from just deleting my own database, right? Isn't this the same as allowing somebody to enter a SQL statement into your app and then just sending it to the database? And yes, it could be. And unfortunately, on many databases that are not well configured, it will be, right? It's like opening port 1433 for your SQL Server database and saying, come on, give me all your SQL. It's never a good idea. But we do have a layer of protection in front of the database. So we allow you to control exactly what data can be read and written and who can write that data with Firebase's security rules. So these are a layer of protection that sits in front of your database that controls all access to that database. And guess what? You get to write those. So you get to say, it's like, no, nobody can read and write from the root of the database. That's not a thing, right? And you can say things about what's a reasonable score, right? Maybe anything under 50 is not a reasonable score for your sliding puzzle. Or maybe you actually are going to store all the moves that somebody has in the database, the random seed that you use to generate the puzzle, and then you're going to validate all the moves that they've made to make sure that that leads to the score that they claim to have gotten. Now, this might be possible in security rules, it might not be, but if you store the information, you can more likely catch cheaters. So security rules are the way where you protect data access. Things you would normally do in the server, you now do in security rules. Okay, we have one more use case to look at. Because it's fun to have a leaderboard, but actually one of the most popular features in any app is a message board, like we see over here. Again, this is a loop, so I'm going to wait for it to clear. But this is a message board where we show the 5 most recent messages. And like I said, I'm waiting for it to loop. There we go. So if we click on the message board, we see that it's initially empty, which makes sense. Then as somebody starts typing a message, we see a typing indicator first. And then a few moments later, we see when they hit enter, the message that they sent. And now this is fun for players to interact, but it's actually also really good for you to get feature ideas, because do we even have a head-to-head mode in the game? And if not, should we maybe add that? And the message board shows the 5 most recent messages. So You can see here that they're coming in. Now, when more than 5 messages have been posted, the oldest one automatically gets removed. And we'll see that in a bit. We are now at 4. Here's number 5. That's me again, apparently. I have lots of questions about the game. Oh, here I was just bragging about my score. So you can now see when the 6th message appears, the 5th one disappears. Of course, the 5 is something you can control, but it's really great that you have like a sliding window over your number of messages. Okay, let's look at how we're going to implement this one. So we're back in the database, but we're now in a node called chat. You might be able to see that. You can see that initially it's empty. Now, when a user starts typing a message, we see that it shows up in the database, and you see that there's a typing indicator, ... Then a few moments later, you see that the message gets updated again. So we're using 3 dots as a typing indicator. We could do anything with that to visualize it nicer, right? I've been looking at how to do this in like this little animated wave thing or something, all kinds of stuff that you can add to your app. But in the database, all that's important is what's the state that we transfer. So again, you can see that initially the message shows up in green because it's a new message. And then when you post the actual message, when you hit enter, it shows up in yellow briefly because it's changed to an existing message. Okay, let's look at the code for building this. So this is the code for writing the message, and it's a bit more, but mostly because I added more white space. Again, we're calling a Firebase database.instance to get access to the database. Then we're referencing the chat node, which we saw earlier. And then we're calling a method called push. Now, you might be used to using numeric indexes for things like chat messages, right? Essentially an array. And that's a great idea until you start thinking multi-user, scalable, cloud-hosted databases and unreliable internet connections. Then suddenly using numeric indexes are not great because they mean that we would need to agree on the length of the array in order to be able to add message to it. So Firebase's push does something different. It generates a key that is essentially a unique ID. It's a globally unique, actually like identifier. It's guaranteed to be unique. It's highly random. And I've circled them in the orange boxes here. So they start with -m and then something else. These look random, but they're actually, the first few characters are essentially based on the timestamp. The rest of it is random. So these can be generated for all users at the same time. They can even be generated when you're offline. And great news, new messages will appear at the end because they start with the end time. Sorry, they start with the current time. Excuse me, I heard some noise here. Okay, so we generate these keys, and then we start sending a message to it. So we write the first statement created a message reference, a place in the cloud that we can write to, and then we set our values on it. You can see that we write two properties. First, we write the player name. Here it's a variable, probably in your case too. And we write 3 dots, because that's the typing indicator that we're using. Then later, when the user hits enter, we write the actual message that they entered. That's all we do, and then we get this. Now you might notice the keys more, right? These very long random keys are push IDs. You can see that, right? First, the message is green because it's new. Then when we call set again, only the message is changed. So you'll notice that while we're setting both the player name and the actual message in the second try, actually the database only notices that only the message has been updated. Okay, let's look at code for reading the same messages. And this should look familiar by now, right? We start with an animated list that has a query that will turn into a stream of database updates. We're referencing the chat node, and here we're limiting it to the last 5. By default, they are ordered by the key. So if we do the last 5, we get the 5 most recent messages. Now keep in mind, this is a stream. So that means that when you add a 6th message, the stream will get a new event with only the 5 most recent ones, not the oldest message. So it's a sliding window over your messages. Okay. This once again gets passed to the item builder, but now the snapshot is the message object that we saw in the database. So that has 2 properties, a name and a message. We get the value of those properties and we show it in the list in the time. That's it, right? That's placed into our UI. With that, we get the checkbox that we have here, right? The message port, sorry. Notice what we didn't do here, right? We didn't connect to a server. We didn't spin up a server. We only had to write code using the Firebase SDK, and it worked for our feature. Okay, time to wrap up. We looked at one feature here specifically, right? For building some fun multi-user use cases, the real-time database. But keep in mind, we have more features that help you build better applications, right? That allow you to focus on features that your users love instead of scalability and security. We'll take care of that. Then we have features that you use to make sure your app is of high quality so that your users are not going to leave negative reviews, right? Things like Crashlytics that we look at, that you just install, and with like a single installation, it starts reporting these crashes back to your users, so that, back to your dashboard, so you can start fixing the ones that affect most here. So if you see at the bottom, there's a short link for it, bit.ly/vikingfire is I think a link to my talk, but definitely also watch Craig's talk. And I recommend if you watch my talk, watch until the end, because there we have 80 players trying to play a maze game together at the same time. And it's really fun to see
that was crazy.
That delivers. Okay, I usually tell people that I can't wait to see what they will build next. In this case, that is really true. I am very excited about the puzzle hack and all the things that I've already heard that you've been building. I can't wait to see what fun multi-user features you come up with. Now, you probably have some questions. So, Steph, Randall, have you been checking? Are there any questions?
I believe
Yes.
there are.
There are actually many questions right now. So maybe I can remove the slides.
Sample puzzle code, Flutter on the web. Flutter Folio. This was so amazing.
Hi, everyone. Here at GSkinner, we've created a variety of Flutter apps that compile to and ran on multiple platforms. But for this project, we want to go beyond that and build something that purposely considered the norms, user expectations, input devices, and idioms for each platform. Create an app that truly felt home on every device. We also want to leverage the unique strengths of each platform, power creative workflow. After some brainstorming, we decided to build a scrapping app called Flutter Folio. Let's take a closer look at how the app works on different devices. Mobile devices are great because they're portable, always everywhere, and they usually have a camera built in. Given that, we focus a small screen experience around capturing content. Let's say you're on a walk, you want to Tim and grab Carl. You can use the mobile-friendly UI to quickly navigate to an existing scrapbook and run this to share experiences, or navigate to your free friends folio and snap a few pictures of Carl to add in later. Of course, larger screens provide a lot more space and improve precision, which is ideal for creative work, like editing scrapbook. So when you get back from a walk, super excited to add in new photos of Carl, you fire up the app, maximize it with native controls and custom title bar, and use your scroll wheel or arrow keys to navigate to the scrapbook you're looking for. While editing, you can use desktop-specific idioms like multi-select, native menus, keyboard shortcuts, context menus, and scroll wheel zoom. But of course, not all large screens are the same. When working on a touch device, the UI adapts in a variety of ways, such as providing larger areas and exposing functionality through contextual buttons instead of right menus. Last but not least, we want to target the web. These days, browser capable.
Okay. Okay, for now, I'm gonna end it there. Hey, Taz. Got more spam in the chat. Give me 1 second. All right.
Hi, I'm Lil Dicky, and honestly, I can have pretty much anything I want in life, but matching them out and actually actually
Let me just see if it does anything crazy. If I could do something like that, that would be insane. I'm actually not a huge fan. Move. I've seen this guy before. He posted on Wilson Twitter. Blobs, is that in the custom painter? Um, it's a pretty good looking website. I feel like they're either overlapping or not in frame. Let's do liquid gradient. Liquid swipe. Let's just try minus swipe.
Yo, what up guys? Welcome back to another quick Flutter tutorial. If you think about it, most apps are just simply scrollable lists, which can get kind of boring from an aesthetic point of view. So let's cook something up that's a little more fancy, like this liquid refresh pool. This is a Fire package that's been around for some time now. I'll put the link in the description if you want to take a closer look under the hood, but I can show you real quick how to implement this into your apps. Now the very first thing you need to do is to go to your pubspec.yaml file.
Okay. I know how to make it in
Welcome back everyone. So in today's video I'm going to show you how to create animated mesh gradient backgrounds. So in one of our previous video where I was explaining about the interactive components feature, I used an animated gradient background and a few people have asked me in the comments how to create that. So here's a detailed video on it. So before you can get started, I want to show you a couple of cool sites where you can get these mesh gradients for free.
Creating great looking glass effect may help make your design more modern and attractive. This Figma tutorial will show you how to achieve high quality glassmorphic design quickly. Let's recreate this design. If you look for sketch tutorial, click the link in the description below. First, draw a simple shape. To make is quite impressive.
I don't know what I'm doing, honestly, at this point.
Are you a web creator? Get ready to up your WordPress game with Elementor, an award-winning website builder.
This After Effects tutorial is sponsored by Motion Bear. Hey guys, what's up? I am Nikhil from dopemotions.com, and in this After Effects tutorial we will learn how to create this liquidy gradient animation or liquid gradient background inside of After Effects, that too without using any plugins. So without any further ado, let's jump into After Effects and get started.
Let's see. Because if I can see how he does it, maybe I can recreate it.
Alright guys, so here we are in After Effects. Let's start by creating a new composition. Let's keep it at 1920 by 1080, that is full HD, 30 FPS and 10 seconds long. Let's call this comp as render, as a main run comp. Hit OK. Let's hit Control Y to create a new solid, which is going to be our background. So I'm going to call this BG. Hit OK. And now we can create a nice gradient background. So to do that, we will be using a 4 color gradient. We can go to Effects and Preset and let's type in a 4, and that should bring up the 4 color gradient. Let's double click to apply this. Now you can of course use any color that you want. I have selected a few specific color codes that I want to use for this tutorial. So I'm going to just copy this and paste it. Then I'll copy this one. Let's paste it on this one. Same for this one. And finally, a nice blue. Alright. Now we can animate them, so we can easily drag these handles and drag it wherever that we want to. So I'm going to place it somewhere like this, and let's create keyframe on the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 and 0.4. Go all the way up to 10 seconds. I'm going to drag this one right here, maybe drag this one into the center, and you can basically do this very randomly. I'm just going to move them just in order to create a random movement into the colors. So that is looking pretty good.
The position of the colors are moving.
And that's all we need to do on this particular layer. Now let's right click, create a new adjustment layer, and all the design and animation are going to be created on this new adjustment layer. So I'm going to call this, let's call it something like, I don't know, movements. Alright, so I'm going to select this layer, and I will be using a very cool effect called CC smear. So I can double click to apply that up, and let's drag this point maybe right over here and this one right over here. Alright, let's increase the radius all the way up to 1000. And we get quite a weird look, but it's fine. We'll fix it as we move forward with this. So let's create a keyframe on the from and to of this CC smear. Go all the way up to 10 seconds. And maybe I'll move this one something like there and this one something like this. So basically we have a very simple movement. Alright, let's duplicate this. So I'm going to hit Control D. So now we have smear 2. And I'm going to drag this one right here and this one actually right over here. Alright, I'm going to hit U so we can see the keyframe. So smear 2, I can remove the default keyframes and create a new ones. Go all the way up to 10 seconds. And let's move this one down, maybe somewhere around there. And also I'll drag this one a bit closer, something like this. Alright, so we have a pretty weird movement, right? So now in order to fix the frame, I will use motion tiles. I'll go into Effects and Preset, type in mode, Alt and click on the stopwatch of the looks cool in it. But if you turn on one, and we need to make sure that pretty cool. And then I will add an effect called put height by around 500. And then make sure you turn on or check this icon that says mirror edges. And boom, there we have a really nice look. So it's looking pretty cool. And then I will add an effect called turbulence displace. So let's add turbulence displacement. Again, we need to make sure that this effect is on the top of the CC smear effect. All right, then change the displacement from turbulent to vertical displacement. And let's increase the amount to around 300 and increase the size to around 150. As you can see right off the bat, it started to look really, really nice and liquidy. And one more thing that I can do is actually increase the complexity all the way up to 10. And this will help us achieve this really nice lines. But if you don't want that, you can even keep the complexity down to around 3 and get a very liquidy kind of a gradient, which looks cool in itself. But I like to go with 10. I personally like this look. All right, so this is looking pretty great, I think. Now, one more thing that you can do is play around with the evolution that will help us to achieve a pretty nice movement into the gradient. So I can add a very simple expression here. I can hold Alt and click on the stopwatch of the evolution. Let's add a simple expression called time times maybe something that has a nice gradient background. And I personally think it looks super cool. I can bring down the size maybe. So, you can add a really nice title, revealing animation, and it looks super duper cool. So that is a wrap for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create some
If I could figure out how to... Let me see. Say minus
Luminar automatically creates a precise mask and replaces the background in a click. Now I could bring my boldest ideas to life.
Welcome back everyone. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to create animated mesh gradient backgrounds. So in one of our previous video where I was explaining about the interactive components feature, I used an animated gradient background, and a few people have asked me in the comments how to create that. So here's a detailed video on it. So before you can get started, I want to show you a couple of cool sites where you can get these mesh gradients for free. So the first one here is meshgradient.com, and in this site you basically have to choose your colors. So you can choose 4 different colors for your mesh gradient, and once you're done choosing your colors, you have these basic default points, and you can add multiple mesh points here basically to blend these colors at different positions here. As I keep dragging this, these gets blended so properly, and I can add multiple of these points. So once you're satisfied with it, you can just go ahead and export and use it in your projects. So the next one here is from LS Graphics, and this is a cool collection, and these are pre-made mesh gradients. As you can see, those are really cool colors that are being used here. So you can just download those and use it in your projects. And then you have sites like FreePick. So first thing we'll do is we'll just duplicate it and keep a backup of it. So these are nothing but random colored shapes that are the same. So first thing we'll do is we'll just duplicate it and keep a backup of it. So this one looks cool. I'll just pick this one and bring it onto Figma right here and just paste it. So there we have it inside the frame. So first thing we'll do is we'll just duplicate it and keep a backup of it. So these are nothing but random colored shapes that are blended together. So we just need to create random shapes and just add colors and finally blend it together. So the first thing I can see here is this blue kind of shape right here. So I'll just take a rough shape for that, and there you go. Our first shape is completed. If you can notice, I'm not going through exactly the color separation line here. I'm just taking a safe area because in the later part we'll be using a property called as layer blur. So once you apply that, these edges get blurred a lot, and that is why you need to take a safe area. And the next shape is for this light pink that you can see here. So as you can see, I'm trying to intersect both these shapes so that we don't have gaps left in between. So make sure that you try to intersect both these shapes properly. So there goes our next shape. So once you're done with that, you can start adding the colors. So for that, I'll just remove this image right here, and then we'll start adding colors to this. So in the first one, as you can see, this is a linear gradient kind of a thing. So I'll add a fill right here, and we'll pick colors. We'll make this linear gradient, and we'll pick colors from here. So one is this blue right here, and on the other end, you can choose this very bright blue from here, and you can change the position of this one from here to here, and you can see that this blue is somewhere here. So I'll just set it to this part here. And the last step you've got to do is simply just select all these and add a property in the FX called as layer blur, and just start increasing the layer blur. So I'm just using shift and the up arrow key, and as you can see, you're starting to get an image which is blurred properly. So that is one way to do it. You can just draw random shapes and do it. And the next way is you can use a plugin called as, if you go to plugins, I have this plugin called as blobs. So you can use this plugin also to create random shapes, and then you can just fill it up. So you can set the complexity of the blob that you want and just say create, and as you can see, it just creates multiple blobs, and then you can just close it and use this at random places like this. So I'll just use the same colors right here so that it's a bit quick. I have set the colors, and now I can just increase the blend value for this, and there you go. I have just created a different mesh gradient with the same colors but different shapes. And also you can use circles. So many people use circles for this, and I can just use the oval tool right here and just start creating circles. So there you go, guys. I have just added this into circles here, and as you can see, this is also a mesh gradient. So that is how you can basically create mesh gradients. So that is the first part of the video, and now we'll try to animate this using interactive components and see how we can use this. So I'll just take this to the bottom right here. So what we'll do is just right click on this and say create component. So now this is a component, and you just have to add a variant to this one. So now we have 2 variants. So in this variant, you have to just move these circles here and there, and you can increase the size of a couple of them. Just move it to random positions. So there we go. I've just moved the position of these here and there, and now you just have to animate this. So go to prototype and link this one to this one, and give
I think I can do that. What is this? This is test 3D. Where's the problem? Let's see. Let's just save this. New Flutter project. Let's call it 3D mesh background. Oh, wait. Don't want to do that. So main body, all I want is a stack. And the scaffold background color black. And the stack, what do you use for a sphere? Stack. Children. Container. Wrap with animated position. Let's see what it needs. Let's see if there's a loop. Duration. So for now, okay, whatever. Container. So left 0, top 0. So now we create a function called update. Container width, let's do 500. Height 500, and a decoration and then I'll just take this for now. Okay. So let's say that's right there. Let's get the device manager up. Let's get this here. I'll just leave it. Okay. Okay. Boom. Now What was that called? So I used something to blur the background. Clip R rect. No, it was in the clip R rect. I had something. Let me open recent. No. Glow puzzle layout. No, it should be. What did I call? Those are the glow tiles. Nope, I did add the. It would be in the glass. Backdrop filter. I'm just gonna take this, and on top of all of this, I'm gonna add that's from UI, isn't it? A true Sigma. Okay. Okay. Border radius circular. Border radius. And it's got to have a child. It's a container. Boom. Now let's make like 3 more shapes. And this one is going to be and let me just see what like and this should not be orange. Let's just make it red. Let's make this one blue. Accent. No way. And now we're going to create and offset is equal to 0, and add offset is equal to 0, and we're going to do plus offset. Double this is just a test. Left. Okay, so now it's like this. But if I change this to 100 and this to 500, watch this. Okay, nothing happened. Let me get rid of this for a second. Which one did I change the size of? Blue. $100. Oh. Where did you go? That's a really small thing. Oh my gosh. And let me just change this to like 100, this to 300. It was like freaky easy to make. How has that never been done? Okay, this is it. With the glassomorphism, the tiles, we're going to make them neon. Each one attributed to a specific color. That color starts appearing. Well, okay. I think we got some. And then all that's background builder. We'll just have an array of all the things. If they get off screen, we'll pop them. And what if I what if instead of doing something like that, let me double all the sizes real quick. Like this, I'll just make 200 by 200. By 2. Okay. What if I make this one red? We have something like that. Let's make all of these bigger. And then when I oh, that actually creates a really, really good looking. And then let me try this. Which one is minus off that? Plus. Just for now, let's do deep orange. Let's do like 1,000 by 1,000. Oh, that looks really cool. Okay. Okay, that's awesome. So we got that. Let me see what like 20 and 20 would look like. You can see shapes at that point, which I don't like. 40 and 40. The cool thing is it's kind of taking care of the blending for you. And then like what if I make these way smaller? $50 and $50. $50 and then like 100, 100. I honestly, I can't really tell what it's doing at this point. Let me just see when I do this. So what if I create a what if I do this with zero blur? Zero blur. Same thing. I wrap this container in a gesture detector. And on tap, we're going to set state. On tap, set state. What's wrong with this? So now when I click, null is not a subtype of double. Oh. Flutter. So I need to do next and 2 double. Int back. Oh, because it's in milliseconds. Let's put this back at 75 and this at 75. Um, what if I have a container that's not round? Okay. I am actually really happy about that. That was pretty awesome. I'm going to go ahead and figure out how I can integrate this into the other app. Well, first I'll probably figure out how to make it look way better. But if we can get a fluid, almost like lava lamp background, I think that that would be so cool. And I think we're actually, the way it kind of morphs together is very like blobbish. And the colors blend well, and I think this looks like every color works well. That just looks so cool to me. What the heck? Okay, cool. We're gonna get this. Let's go. What if I do red, yellow, blue accent, and that looks so cool. And it just blends so well. That's the cool thing. Okay. I'll be back. One more thing I'm gonna do. Slide puzzle, glow, glass puzzle. I'm gonna put this in the container. The child is gonna be text. Center. And the text is going to say it's actually getting to be some pretty crazy code. But pretty sure 25 is what width is going to be 200, height is going to be 100, and then this text is going to have text style, Okay. Let me check this real quick. So here's what I need to do. Let's see. For this to be a really good looking background, let's see. First thing I want is time. Space. Needs to be linear. If I had something like that, I'm gonna say accessible color palettes. Look good. Great. Accessibility is going to be important, but not super important, because you can see even with this. Let me show you something. If I change every color to white. You can still see it. And the reason is because the blur on that background, as well as the dark coloring, it gives solid enough contrast to where you'll never have to worry about, you shouldn't have to worry about accessibility. Even blurriness, because it adds this. And maybe that's what we'll do, is start with gray. Then we'll call it color progression. And that's the idea of adding more colors over time. And then we need spawn point. And that's going to be create new ones at any given moment. And then at that point, we tied in what was I supposed to do today? Let me see. Oh, what the heck? I thought it was behind. I'm actually ahead of schedule. Yeah, Saturday I have to make a responsive UI. But with great power comes a lot of complexity. I like that. Alright, and I'm gonna call it quits on the stream at about 12. Actually, I'm gonna call it quits right now. Thanks for watching.